Should I look up like that?
Good, we're live. We're live.
Woohoo, live.
I know. We're live on LinkedIn, we're live on YouTube, and on Periscope, which is Twitter, as well. So I know folks are going to be coming in slowly, but I kind of want to start by telling folks a little bit. This is a really special impromptu conversation that I'm going to have with my friend Lori Schwartz. And Lori, you can see here, she works for Storytech. She's got a really interesting company. But Lori's also, for you guys that might not know her, and everyone knows her, really, she is the governor for the Interactive Media Peer Group for the Television Academy. So what that means for everyone that is listening or watching is that is the Interactive Media Peer Group that is responsible for certain awards related to virtual reality and augmented reality and new interactivity. So that's really exciting. You're the governor. And Lori actually asked me, I think it was the end of last year, you asked me to be part of the executive committee for the peer group, and I joined. And I am also a member of the academy. I am part of the executive committee working with Lori on this interesting category. So right now, for people that are listening, you are getting two of the people inside Television Academy that are helping with the future of television, the future of content. And really, the two of us we're two of the people that watch all this content, and with one of the awards actually decide who gets that.
That sounds exhausting.
Well, it was a long process, Lori. It was a long process, I have to say. I learned a lot.
Yeah, the way that the academy is structured, for folks that don't know, is when you're a governor, you actually are sitting on the board. And the board is composed of 2 governors per peer group. And the peer group represents that section of the trade that you're representing. And so we are representing interactive media, which really captures interactive content within nationally distributed television. Now, what's always changing is, what do we mean by nationally distributed and what do we mean by television? And that's the part that's a moving target right now. And especially in our space in interactive media, where a lot of the content is enabled by new technology, which sits at, Cathy's sweet spot right now. A lot of that is immersive, AR and VR and XR, whatever you want to call it, or spatial computing. But all of that is continuously being redefined, because some VR, some AR is not considered television, right? And so it's our charge to sort of try and, for a moment in time, name this thing so that we can recognize it and award it appropriately.
And it's truly exciting. And Lori, you've been doing this. I mean, for folks, lots of people in my network know you, but for those of you that don't, can you introduce yourself a little bit more formally? And tell what you do and how long you've been a governor? Because it's been something you've been doing for quite a while.
Yeah, on and off, certainly. I would say I've had 3 terms now. So a governor is allowed to have 2 terms in a row, which is 2 years. So each term is 2 years, and you can do 4 years in a row, and then you have to step away. And in the past, we were trying in the Interactive Media Peer Group to really just keep to 2 terms, 4 years each, because we wanted to give a lot of people chances to grow and evolve. So I did my 4 years almost 6 years ago. And then a moment in time happened, and we weren't having someone who specifically wanted to step in at the time, and it was a good time in my personal life to to jump back in again. And I had some goals in mind for where I wanted to take the peer group, and so it was a good time for me to jump back in. And so I am now on the 2nd term of another 2 years. This year is very interesting because of the pandemic. The board ruled that everybody gets another year. So we'll see what happens in the following years. Technically, I have another 2 years, but we'll see what happens. But one of the things that I really tried, that's my cat. Hello, hello, live television. Say hi. Say hi. She's so not happy right now. What's interesting about all of this is you're not only giving out awards, but you're also trying to keep the community together, create opportunities and events for mixing, bring out thought leadership. So a lot of my focus has been on generating interesting events that are relevant to the peer group, and that also teach and lead the academy in our space, because not everybody understands who we are and what we're doing. And so one of our big roles, our charges, we feel, is to introduce a lot of what the great work is that our peers are doing and get it in front of the TV Academy. Separately, as a working person, I make a living in experiential marketing. So I spent almost 13 years at one form of Interpublic, in various roles there, but always in innovation. And always matchmaking media companies, tech companies, and brands. And so it was sort of a natural evolution for me when I became an independent to continue to try to figure out, how do you tell stories around tech?
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of my clients in the last few years especially have become trade shows and events. And so it's a natural match for me as governor to drive a lot of event activations, because that's what I'm already doing for a living. And it's a language you speak, and a lot of it is trying to entertain people, but also teach them at the same time. And then that same education piece is so important in the ecosystem and the environment that you live in, which is what's happening in interactive. And I am forever leaning on Cathy and others to say, okay, well, what does this mean? Or how does that work? Or what should we call that? Or how should we handle this? Because even though I'm paying attention to all of it, I'm not inside of it. And so we have to really have experts like you, Cathy, to help land the plane. And so one of our biggest challenges this year was figuring out, in a pandemic, how do we give our judges and our peer group members the opportunity to view VR content that's up for awards in an environment where we're not holding a salon or a place where they can come and review things. Because in the past, that's always what we did, was create an opportunity for people who don't have headsets to come and look at content. And so we had to be very creative about figuring out ways to get this content online. So web browser content was really important this year. And also asking our award submitters, our nominees, to submit a really good video explaining their project, which means, showing footage inside the VR experience and also explaining why they did what they did and how is it sort of excellent. And of course, based on what award they're submitting for, there are, criteria for that. And it's changed over the years. I mean, initially, our first VR award was for a piece called Henry.
I remember that. Yeah,
I just did it again out of the blue on my quest. I was like, I haven't visited Henry in a while. And Henry blew people away because it was the first time that people experienced the character in VR looking right at them and actually interacting with their physical presence, so that you really felt like you were with Henry. And those were early days. I mean, now you have stuff by Baobab and other companies who are actually leveraging the AI engine as part of the storytelling in such a strong way. Like, you're really part of the story. The characters are looking right at you.
Wolves in the Walls. I mean,
Wolves in the Wall, which was an award awarded last year, is another one of those where you are in there, and especially even in things that haven't won awards yet, but that are volumetric. Where Buzz Aldrin is like talking right at you and following you with his eyes. Things like that are a mind blow. And we have to figure out in those environments how to showcase what's being done in order to award it. But also for people that don't have headsets, it's hard to like find a language to explain it. Like, I had my, sort of, they call it their like aha moment with VR when I did that Buzz Aldrin piece.
Yeah.
And it was I think the Journey to Mars. I forget the exact name.
I don't remember the name, but I know exactly the piece you're referring to.
And I was talking to him, and he was showing me his design for what was going to get us to Mars. And I remember thinking, I never gave a crap about space before. And now I get it. Like, all of a sudden I was like, and I have a 10-year-old now, and I remember thinking, and this was like 2 or 3 years ago, oh my God, her education is going to be so much better, because if she can be in the spaceship, if she can have this famous astronaut talking directly to her, she's going to have context. And, you know, we talk a lot about empathy in VR, but all of that is so true. So again, how do we award this? How do we set criteria for it? What do we call it? And then what types of VR are considered television? Because this is the eternal battle.
That's the battle and the question. And that's the hard part. And Lori, and to that point, I just kind of want to jump in for a second before we go into that is one of the reasons, you know, a lot of people don't know this and some people might, but I come from a television background. So I did journalism, I did documentary, I've got my Emmy nomination back there from many years ago. So
it's great.
I come from a documentary, from a broadcast and television background that used to be my my business and my job. So I've been able to kind of port some of that of my knowledge into virtual reality and augmented reality and defining what it is. You know, how do these new mediums and these new experiences translate into what could potentially be television? I think is really interesting. So keep going. I just kind of wanted to add a little bit.
No, but you raised a good point in the defining it. So I think the ultimate discussion that's been going on in our space for many years and really comes to a head when it comes to awarding it, whether it's considered television or not, is the argument of narrative versus interactive. Or let's call it the discussion between narrative and interactive. And you go into VR, it's using a gaming engine to tell a story. And so that causes all sorts of arguments. Well, if you're using a gaming engine, then it's a game. But no, that's not the case. We're actually using gaming engines now to composite in real time for storytelling. And we're using gaming engines to help create the interactivity. So, you know, but does it have a, you know, beginning state and an end state? Are we collecting points? You know, are we using, you know, for lack of a better word, the modalities of gaming to tell the story? And then the TV Academy may say, well, then it's not television, then it's a game. And so in VR, we have found that submissions that come in in VR, there is often a discussion around, is it a game or is it a narrative? And that is a moving target, that discussion, because as we evolve as creatures in this world, as our storytelling gene evolves, what used to be considered narrative may be considered a game now and vice versa. And we keep growing and evolving every year in our understanding of this and also in our expertise and experience with things. So one year something may be, no, it's a game, we can't accept it. And the next year we can say, no, that experience is in a storytelling world. It's in the world of the story. The characters are performing things that they would in the show that we know that this is an extension of. Therefore, it is a narrative, you know. And frequently, VR has been marketing extensions, right?
Yeah,
you know,
we've seen a lot of that, obviously. Yeah.
And that was the only way to get it funded in the early days. And now a lot of our winning projects are not extensions, but they are unique original projects on their own, funded as narrative pieces, not as extensions of primetime television. So that's really interesting. And the IP may come from movies or books or other places. But go ahead. There's
no, but I was going to say in the last Emmys, I mean, we have a list of winners, right, that you've seen across the years. Henry, which was kind of the first one. Yeah. I was actually working in cinematic VR. People don't know that either. I worked in the cinematic VR studio that had amazing content. And I remember when Henry won, we were just so excited. We were just so excited about that. Then you've got Dear Angelica, you know, and then obviously Wolf in the Walls. And now, you know, this year we had The Line, right? We had The Messy Truth, VR, had one as well. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, was it Spider-Man as well?
Oh, no, Spider-Man didn't win this year. Spider-Man won in a previous year. Yeah, and then we also had Dear Angelica. I think you mentioned that. Well, it was so interesting. This year it was The Line and The Messy Truth who won in different categories. But what's so interesting about those two pieces is they couldn't be more different uses of VR. So The Line is a, you know, narrative piece of content specifically designed for VR and designed to use hand tracking, which is fantastic and unique. Whereas the messy truth is really, almost a journalistic piece. It's really a piece to put you inside of an experience and have you experience another character's life.
Yeah.
And it's centered around, the haves and the have-nots. And the piece that is up for an award right now that Elijah Allen Blitz directed, it's actually with Brer Larson. And part of the fun thing about the Messy Truth project, also produced by Van Jones, is that all the different actors that are participating in it are Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
But you're literally being put in the shoes of the character in that situation, and you're being put in experiences where you might be female in a situation where there's misogyny or a Me Too moment about to happen, or in the case of the project before, where you're a young Black American boy watching his father be sort of persecuted by police. But it's very powerful, and you're emotionally wrecked after you experience it, because you're experiencing these moments of messiness in our world, in our culture. But the line is it's meant to entertain you. It's a beautifully written cinematic narrative, and so they're very different. But they're both examples of where virtual reality is going, right? And our need as an organization to recognize great content, excellent content.
And I remember when we were judging, it was so incredibly hard because there were other nominees that were just fantastic. I remember there were Fragments. There were just a whole bunch of other ones that were really, really wonderful. But it's hard. At the end of the day, we all kept saying, okay, who do we give the award to? What does it take to get an Emmy or to be Emmy worthy? And I think that was a big question. And I think all the nominees were great and Emmy worthy in their own way.
Yeah.
We had to arrive at this decision as a committee, and I think that was interesting because you would have perspectives from different people. Yeah. We gave the award also to Joseph Gordon-Levitt's Hitrecord. Yeah. That did great stuff with interactive and user content. So obviously that's not VR, but I still think it's relevant to mention it because it was an excellent piece as well.
Yeah, that's very much driven by user-generated content, and Hitrecord's won an Emmy six or 7 years ago as well. Because again, that umbrella of interactive media, and what does interactive mean, is very wide. At the same time, when it comes down to determining eligibility for an award and then actually awarding it, in the end, you have to back into the description of the award and that criteria. And every year we might adjust that criteria slightly because the technology is changing. I think we're one of the peer groups that does have to continuously look at our awards and our language. Yeah. Because language, and you and I have talked about this, is very important. Like, I don't think a lot of people outside of our community know what spatial computing is. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't sound very television-like or narrative oriented. It sounds geeky and nerdy and engineering. But at the same time, I know exactly what it means because I'm living in this world, and it does describe the phenomena of it. But is it the best marketing term to grow the category in the content world? One could argue it may not be. Does it explain exactly what it is? And do we all understand it who are doing it? Yes. Mm-hmm. So that's the other thing, is that language in our world becomes very important. Defining what interactive is, defining what AR and VR and immersive are. Bandersnatch is another great example, right? Bandersnatch won an Emmy last year in our peer group for their interactive television functionality, the ability to augment your story. Mm-hmm. Now, was that the most innovative, creative expression of, a story tree, a narrative branch kind of experience? No, probably not. There's been others before it. Soderbergh's Mosaic came before it and almost won an Emmy, was nominated in a juried process. And there's been, narrative branches forever. in choose your own adventure kind of thing. But this just came along, worked, got people excited, got the mass general populace excited about choose your own adventure, and was excellent in all of these pieces that came together. And that's the thing about this, is it's not that this is the first time something has happened. This is the most beautiful version of that thing. This is the most creative thing. But it's all of those things coming together that say, at this moment, at this time, that piece deserves the Emmy, you know?
And it's interesting. Someone's asking here, is it based solely on design or purpose? And it's a combination. I think it's a combination. And I want to be very clear. Yeah. Like, it's not just me and Lori deciding. There's a whole committee, and some of the awards, you've got members that are in many different disciplines that vote. Like, I vote on different categories that are not necessarily my category, but I get a chance to vote on them. There is just that one award that, yes, we do meet with our executive committee to look at and to really kind of hone on. But maybe let's talk about, what does it take? Like, what if let's say if a content creator is watching this and they dream of having an Emmy one day for their content, like, what are some of the things we can say? Like, what works and what doesn't work?
Well, I think that anytime that you are trying to submit an award and explain what that project is, that becomes very important. And so I think a lot of people who don't have big budgets end up being at a disadvantage when their video that explains the project just isn't there. It's just not, it's rushed out, or they aren't able to spend time and have a professional editor, or whatever it is. And that's the challenge, is that you have to be able to market your piece. And so you have to really provide documentation and tell your story. And so in the case of The Line, they were so good about saying, we wanted to use VR to tell a story. We had 3 goals. We wanted to use VR to tell a story. We wanted to leverage hand tracking. And we wanted the audience members' physical body to be impacted by the narrative of the story. So they set their 3 goals out at the beginning. They told us those were their 3 goals, and then they demonstrated how they answered those 3 goals. And then some of it is really just human experience too. Like, oh my God, I remember after watching The Line, the jury was like, wow. It was just an experience to be had. It was gorgeous and cinematic and really beautiful. Then there are other projects that, there's parts of them that are beautiful, that are excellent, but the overall piece just isn't at that premium quality. And so some of it is a little subjective, but we're backing into literally the description of the award.
Yeah. And we all have to, when the winners are selected, at least for that award specifically, like, there has to be unanimous consent. Like, everyone has to agree that piece of content gets that award. So that was really interesting, with so many different backgrounds.
It's really interesting because you just can tell, like, everyone's like, this is my favorite. And usually it's the same. Like, when something is unanimous, it's really unanimous. And then occasionally you'll run into like 50% of the room or something, and then that it's just not there. Because the other challenge in these juried environments is that your jurors are coming at it with their own prejudices, which can't be helped. And they're in the room because they're experts. But when something rises above that and everyone just says, this is it, then you've hit gold,
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. But each award has criteria. And so it's not just creative, it's not just experience, it just depends on the award and what it is.
Yeah, so when anyone submits, I think they need to pay attention to that, to really explain how, not just this is a beautiful piece of content, but no, what were your goals? Why did you use this technology? Why did you tell this story using this technology instead of a different one? So I think that there's a lot there. I'm looking forward to getting more and more volumetric content as that part, kind of continues to evolve. We had one nominee that was Fragments, that was volumetric, and it was a beautiful piece as well.
I love that piece, yeah.
Yeah. So
I'd say one of the other challenges in our world right now is that some of these pieces are done for like Comic-Con or South by, and they're amazing. their location-based experiences. I mean, I'm sure we won't see that next year because all that's been shut down this year. But we were seeing a lot of amazing location-based experiences, but they're only one-time experiences that are made for marketing. And so those are not in our category. But, you know, I think those should be awarded in their own category, maybe not the TV Academy, but they're amazing experiences that can really alter your perception of a particular area, you know, a thought, an idea, a concept, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. And I know you have a hard stop in like a couple of minutes, so I want to make sure we get as much, you know, as much detailed information from you. But, you know, what are some of the things you'd like to see in the future? Like, what are you excited about when it comes to, you know, the future of television, or what you want to see?
I think I'm very interested in seeing where this is not necessarily something that should be awarded per se, but I think the cognitive experience with how you interface with content is really important. So at a base level, I'm talking about the EPG, you know, but at a really more intense level, I'm talking about Minority Report, you know, where you're physically like moving content around, or where you're in a social VR experience and you're interacting with something. So I'm really excited about, and I've talked to you about this and saying to you, what should I go see? But immersive theater. Yeah. Where you're part of the story and you're working with actors, and the great work that our friend Kim Jorgensen is doing at Venture Lab. I just loved Venture Lab because it's like a location-based experience, but inside of VR, where she's hired live actors, and I'm interacting in my little gym area in VR with actors all over the world who are in real time guiding me through a world. And it felt like I had gone into a whole environment, and I was walking around, and I was having an experience. It was a mind blow. It was like a VR escape room. And I think that is so exciting. Now, is that television per se? You know, I don't know. Maybe at some point it will be, where the audience gets to participate in this.
Oh, Laurie, I think we lost you. I think you have frozen.
So that's really, sorry, did I freeze for a second?
Yes, you did for a second. And I want to be mindful of your time because it's 5:30. I want to keep you here, but it's up to you.
So I do have to jump, but you know, I could talk to you forever.
Yeah, I know.
And I just want to give you kudos because, you know, folks like me need folks like you to guide us. And so we're so appreciative of your thought leadership and other colleagues of yours in this space as well, to get stuff in front of us and help us see it so we can share it with our community, because a lot of this does require leaps of faith, you know, and this, you know, we're in a time in the world where people don't want to leap so much. So it's great to have folks like you helping us understand what's going on. Thank you.
And before you go, I do want to say, I think because of the pandemic, we might not see some type of content, but I think we'll see amazing creativity next year being brought by this situation.
I agree with you. I mean, we've already seen people find all sorts of unique ways to capture content. So I think you're absolutely right. You know, just like this.
I know. Thank you, Laurie. Take care.
It's been fun. Bye.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. This was a really impromptu LinkedIn Live that I thought we'd do after the Emmys on Sunday. You know, the last week, where a lot of the awards were given out. But it has been one of the highlights of my year, to be honest, to be a part of the executive committee for the Interactive Media Peer Group and be part of this group of folks that are really trying to understand what is the future of television, what's coming, how does virtual reality, augmented reality, spatial computing kind of play into this. I'm looking forward to everyone's creativity in the submissions next year. So anyway, congratulations again to all the nominees and the winners in virtual reality and augmented reality. And yeah, I think that, you know, if you're going to eventually submit, or if you dream of having an Emmy, please, you know, watch this or share this out with people that you know are content creators that might find this conversation useful. So thanks again for tuning in.